Everyone will tell you that property is about location, location, location. But that's only 1/3 of the equation. Today, I'm going to run you through the 3 P's of property. That's price, position, and property. You need to address all 3 of these categories to make sure that you get the right home. And before we start this video, if you find it helpful in any way, do me a little favor and hit that like button below or leave a comment. Just a little gesture like that can make a huge difference to the channel. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks you guys, it really means a lot. So let's dive in. So starting off with our first P, we're gonna look at price. Price is the first thing you need to consider when buying a home, and typically the least flexible factor. And that's especially true for first home buyers. It's likely you're gonna have a strict budget based on how much you can afford and your deposit. If you don't know your budget, you can use an online calculator to help figure out your maximum borrowing capacity. We'll include a link down below. Once you've figured out your borrowing capacity, it's time to move on to the other 2 P's. These ones are a lot more flexible, so you can have a lot more choice. The second P is position. Position is one that everyone knows about. You hear it all the time when anyone's looking for real estate. Location, location, location. But it's more subtle than that. There's actually 3 different levels that you need to assess: the suburb, the street, and the property itself. Let's take a look at these in more detail. The suburb. The first big question about position is the suburb you want to live in. And ultimately, it's the biggest impact. You can change almost everything about the property except the location. The suburb you choose will depend on your lifestyle that you're looking for. Suburbs within 10 kilometers of the city will typically give you better access to public transport, cafes, shopping centers, and other amenities, but you'll be struggling to find a decent sized home in these areas as a first home buyer with a budget. You'd probably need to go for an apartment or a townhouse if you're lucky. On the other hand, newer suburbs on the outer fringes of the city might not have the same amenities, but you can get 3 or 4 bedroom homes with a garage on your own block of land. There's always a very large middle ground in between these 2 options. Now there's plenty of established suburbs outside the inner city ring that still have some amenities close at hand. These suburbs can be in the Goldilocks zone. Still affordable to first home buyers with a budget, but offering better access to shopping centers, restaurants, and local transport. The ideal situation is to find a suburb with a thriving local village with shops, restaurants, and other services. This will make your home nice to live in while you're there, and also give you good upside with capital growth in the future. We're seeing a trend where people are shifting away from large shopping centers and prefer to go to their local shopping center at a smaller village, and property values are reflecting that. If you're looking for one of these Goldilocks suburbs, be careful. There can be significant differences in value and potential growth in the same suburb. If your house is too far away to easily walk to the local village, then it could be worth 10 to 15% less than what another one is worth that's a little bit closer and more walkable. Likewise, if you're too close, then the noise from the hustle and bustle could be off-putting to any potential purchases in the future. Whether you choose a suburb in the inner city or the outer fringes or somewhere in the middle, you should take a look at the following things. Parks and outdoor spaces. These are especially valuable if you're looking to buy a unit or an apartment. School catchment areas. Even if you don't have kids or don't plan on having them, school catchment areas can be a big driver in value. Future plans. You want to check for future development plans of the suburb, including zoning and overlays. You don't want to buy a nice place that'll be overshadowed by high density apartments in the years coming. The street. Buying a property on a good street is just as important as buying in a good suburb. Some streets can be too close to noise, some can be close to train lines and schools or main roads. Some streets can be too narrow or just one way. An ideal street would be wide, tree line, and have a consistent and attractive streetscape with little through traffic and easy access. You also want to look at the position of the house within the street block and are considering subdividing the block in the future. On the other hand, a corner block will give you street frontage on 2 sides of the block. Being close to a busy road, a T-intersection, freeway, or petrol or train station is not ideal. It's good to be close to the train station for the sake of easy access to public transport, but you don't want to be so close that you can hear the clanging of the boom gates. You can visit a street multiple times at different times of the day and week to get an idea and feel for it. I can guarantee you that any inspection will be scheduled at the best possible time of day, so make sure you see the property at the worst possible times as well. Property position. The property position is also an important consideration if you're buying a unit or an apartment. Think about the position of the dwelling within the apartment block. A top floor front apartment is far more desirable than a ground floor back apartment that has headlights shining on the windows every time someone drives down the driveway. In general, upstairs apartments offer better views, better light, and higher security. On the flip side, ground floor apartments can have courtyards, which means you have more land value. If these things don't bother you, you can buy a poorly situated apartment and get a discount compared to an ideally situated apartment. Just be aware that they are less desirable to buyers overall, so they might be harder to sell down the track. If you're planning on buying a house, you should consider where the land is set on the block of land. Large frontage yards are typically less useful and less desirable than large backyards. You also need to look at the aspect effect. Properties with north-facing living areas or garden areas are best. The aspect minimizes natural light as the sun moves east to west. East-facing homes will get great views of the sunrise and full morning sun, but that will be over by midday, so afternoon will be darker. In summer, they can be uncomfortably warm, and in winter, you might not get much heat from the sun at all. South-facing homes won't get much sunlight. They'll most likely be dark at most times. This can cause further problems because condensation can be a potential issue. Condensation leads to mold and mildew, which you really don't want. West-facing properties are the bobby prize. The afternoon sun will almost come in at a horizontal angle and can be intense. This makes for a very uncomfortable summer. Your house will already be warm from the rise in temperature during the day and will be exacerbated by the full sun in the afternoon. West-facing properties are best to be avoided if possible. The property. Now we're on to the final P, which is the property itself. This refers to the dwelling itself. Typically, this is a thing that most buyers are focused on, but it's actually the easiest thing to change. If you're buying a detached home, you can renovate, remold, or even knock down the whole thing and rebuild a new home. You're a bit more limited with a townhouse or apartment, but you can still do some renovations to improve the interior of the property you buy. But you can't change the location of the property. That being said, there's still plenty to consider about the property. How many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms? Do you want a single-story home or a two-story home? What about the style? Do you want something modern or do you want something with a little bit of heritage? When looking at the property itself, it's useful to come up with a list of must-haves, nice-to-haves, and deal breakers. The must-haves are things that are essential. For example, if you have children or work from home, you're probably going to need at least 3 bedrooms. The nice-to-haves are the aspects of the property that would be nicer to live in, but aren't really essential. And finally, the deal breakers are things that would make the property a hard no matter how good it is otherwise. We recommend spending some time thinking about these and creating what we call a buyer brief. A buyer brief is a document that spells out exactly what you want in a property in all aspects of the home. Preparing a brief will make sure that you don't miss out on any important aspects of the property search. We've created a worksheet that will help you create your buyer brief, and we'll include a link down the bottom of this video. The 3 Ps of property is a great model to use when searching for your next home. It'll make sure that you cover all bases and set you up to buy a property that you'll love to live in, and hopefully grow in value over time. It's unlikely you'll be able to cross off everything off your wish list. The only people who get to make no compromises on their properties are multimillionaires and billionaires who can afford to pay whatever it takes. And even then, it's unlikely these people will get the perfect home. You'll have to prioritize on what you need versus what you want. But when you do inevitably compromise, make sure you minimize any irreversible decisions. Here's a bit of food for thought. In a study of homeowners who regretted their purchase, 34% of homeowners said they regretted not buying a larger home. 8% regretted choosing a long commute. So if you have to choose between a tiny apartment with a short commute or a large home with a bit of a drive, the odds are you'll be happier with the latter. So what's preventing you from qualifying for a home loan? Here at Hunter Galloway, we get home loans approved. So if you're living in Australia and looking for a mortgage broker, we can help. Visit us online at huntergalloway.com.au or call us on 1300 088 065 and we'll see you next time.